like, yeah, I can hit
Hey,
E-Pack
how's
now.
everybody
I'm
going? This
having
is
fun.
Elusive Collectibles, and I started this series here called State of the Hobby, and I'm just getting different people's opinions in the community about everything going on within the hobby. And today we have Marble Cards Up, also known as Brian, and then we
What's
got
up, guys?
Marvelous Max, also known as Victor.
What
So
up,
we're just
everybody?
we're just gonna have a general discussion about what's on our mind, and just kind of float from topic to topic. So we'll start up with Victor. Victor, what's on your mind?
Oh man, I'm having a lot of fun in the hobby right now, and I'm getting messaged from people I had no idea were into Marvel cards, and now I'm noticing new names, new faces all over. But I'm also feeling like it's not just coming from the sports card world anymore. Not even Pokemon, not even comics. I mean, to be honest, guys, I'm like at a point in collecting where I'm realizing um, stuff on e-pack sells out faster than ever. We're having more and more like rushes to get physical product and new stuff, and people are opening more sealed stuff at record paces, whether it's Whatnot or on Instagram breakers and whatnot. And now instead of 4 or 5 people in a live break, we're having 25 people. It's awesome, but I'm also at a point where I'm trying to figure out where are these people coming from and what is all the hype. How has it been growing? So like to me, my questions to you guys are like, where do you see the hobby growing next? Like, where are we going to grab more and more collectors? Because it's all about, to me, not just the MCU or comic world or even Pokemon and sports cards. It's like all collectibles are starting to get into this. So I don't know what you guys think, but that's kind of like what's been on my mind lately.
What about you, Brian? How do you feel about that?
I like it. I think that's a fun thing to ponder upon. Where are they coming from?
Yeah.
Right? I think that's kind of like the $1 million question, right? And I think what we have to realize is that to pinpoint it, it's not really as easy as some people might think it is. And I say that because of sentiment, right? Like I always joke around about um, how undervalued the Marvel hobby is because of the amount of sentiment that every human has for some type of like Marvel character, right? And I joke like even the Taliban likes fucking Spider-Man. You know what I mean? Like even they have a favorite superhero. Like it pretty much touches everybody, you know? So
Mhm.
to pinpoint one exact demographic of where it's coming from is a lot harder, right? Um, I think the biggest influx though is going to come from sport and Pokemon. That's what I think. I mean, you're already kind of seeing it with those two. Unfortunately, I think the sport influx, not unfortunately, um, the double-edged sword of it from coming in from the sport world is that there's a lot of value first type mentalities, right? And even though that's good, it needs to be like a controlled version, I think. You know,
What do you think the proportion is in terms of that elusive? Like, how many do you think people are in it just speculating, and how many are really trying to get in as new collectors and really love it, or for the love of Marvel?
That's a great question, and it's very very tough to pinpoint an exact percentage because even with Pokemon, like when you saw a lot of people jump back in, I think for me, what I noticed was the main driving factor, at least in my experience, was nostalgia. That's what made me, buy some of these items. Something that you couldn't afford as a kid. That's naturally for whatever reason. I think that all of us have some of that to some effect. Like you want something that you weren't able to have. So that's how it started for me, and then how I transitioned into tomorrow was just how much more I enjoy the artwork. Once I got out over the nostalgia, I think what Pokemon did, it was like my gateway to getting back into collecting. But now I'm focusing on Marvel because that's what I'm enjoying more.
mm,
If that makes sense
yeah,
for me personally. But Yeah, you know, another thing is on the third, to Brian's point, you know, I do agree that the biggest two people that are bringing, or the two biggest hobbies bringing people in is Pokemon and sports, but also things like the MCU because of word of mouth. You know, that we're getting free, if you think about it, it's like free marketing. Every time there's a movie out, anytime there's a new show out on Disney Plus, that just promotes the hobby for us. You know what I mean? And directly, it might not be like a direct, you know, like a commercial for us. You know what I mean? In regards to trading cards, but I think somehow, some way, you know, people are going to start enjoying Marvel more, and they might find out about someone collecting. The more of us that are collecting, whether it's from the same thing would happen with Pokemon. You know, it just spread it like wildfire.
Yeah.
Like I mean, only hardcore collectors were posting anything on Instagram in regards to Pokemon, and as soon as it spread, you know, Logan Paul and Steve Aoki and everybody else that's been in it, Logic, the rapper, right? More and more people started posting about it on Instagram. So I think that's the same thing that's going to happen here with Marvel. It's going to take an influencer for it to spread to the point, you know, to where it gets out of control, and you see, yeah,
Yeah, and you
people
saw Aoki's wonderful wall of Marvel,
oh yeah,
right?
yeah. I wish
That's
you would have showed him though. That's the only thing they didn't get. They got some love because they usually get no love. Let's be honest. But he still didn't show any. He showed sports. He showed Pokemon. He showed Metazoo, I believe.
and I think that was calculated. That's what I personally think. I think that he was caught in an area that he didn't want to be in and tried to get out of that area as fast as he could so that people didn't see how much Marvel he was actually getting.
I agree, and I think there's more high profile collectors that are coming in and spending big money on the hobby, and they're then letting letting themselves be known to kind of like be like, look, this is what I have, this is what I'm doing, after they've locked things down. And that to me is a sign that they're trying to secure their position and
Yeah.
also be ready for when like everybody is trying to get the new stuff and the old stuff. And actually it's already happening because now that we have big influencers in here, the scarcity is going to go up because the demand is up.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it leads to, right? Scarcity of the product. You have like so many sets that come out that have such a short print run compared to Pokemon and sports.
And to your point as well, like, you know, with them not want to reveal their pocket aces yet, I feel that's because they learned from Logan Paul's mistake. You know, in the sense that he announced it a little bit too early, where he still hadn't picked up all the pieces that he wanted to pick up. You know,
Yeah.
and but that's fine. You know, I don't blame him for that. You know what I mean? That's passion. Like you really enjoyed something to where you weren't trying to hide it from anybody, but it
Right.
ended up costing you a little bit more at the end for sharing. You know what I mean?
Right.
Really, that's what it was. It's almost like getting punished for sharing.
Yeah.
But now, so that's a good move. I think they definitely learned from them. Now, another thing I wanted to touch on a little bit is as far as grading. Where do you guys see set grading versus, you know, grading singles? I personally, just to start us off, like at least when I'm on eBay, you know, hunting for pieces, I see more singles being sold than sets. But you know, that doesn't mean it won't change in the future or it won't even out. What do you think in regards to this, Brad?
So I see the same thing you're seeing, but I can't discount that it's possible the singles are selling to fulfill the sets. You know what I mean? They're not outright buying a full graded set. They're buying to finish their graded set or to add to their existing graded sets. You know, because I mean, I'm a big proponent of grading. I think it's a great thing to do. You know, I have companies that I go through, you know, which is SGC. Others, you know, if you have 90% of a set in all PSA, it would only make sense to crack those slabs and regrade them all SGC. No, I mean, you're not gonna buy any other type of slab. You're gonna pretty much follow through with that format. But when it comes to something like a golden auction, right? I think the set grading would be invaluable. To throw a whole set graded on golden auction where people have huge amounts of money to throw at that, then I see that as the better method to do it. For me, I'm grading a few sets so that I can have like, my master sets for my kids and stuff like that. But yeah, I like that. I'm interested to hear what Vic has to say about that.
I think it's been one of those things that is gonna develop over time. We're talking like the next 5-10 years. I think we're not anywhere there yet in terms of grading sets. I think people are doing that, and they're a very, very small portion of the hobby. We're talking like less than 2% of the whole. Say there's double what the Facebook groups have in people in Marvel cards. I would say there's like, you know, even less than that would even think about doing that. And then actually the people that are executing it and have done it are still not even, accomplished maybe more than 2 or 3 sets. So
Right.
I think it's like, to me, that's something that is the future of the hobby, but the hobby's so young. Like, we're really, really young compared to like people in terms of grading. Like, people have been grading for 20 years, and Marvel's been grading for like 4
One.
or 3
Yeah.
tops. You know,
I also feel
so
like
to me, that's a sign of like, it's good that we're seeing it happening so much more, and there's a debate, and you have options where to grade and aesthetic, and that's what it's all about. It's art. So I think it's beautiful.
yeah,
Yeah.
my thoughts on the whole set versus singles also is that I think it's going to be tough. I think the set has to be an iconic set in order for people to want to buy a complete set. So for me, like if I came in and if I put my shoes as a new collector or someone new to the hobby, I'm probably going to be attached to a single set, right? Because remember, the gateway drug is nostalgia. So it's whatever I remember. For some people, that's X-Men Fleer, right? 1994. For some people, it's 96 Marvel Masterpieces. For some people, it's 1990 MU, right?
Yeah.
So I think that it would have to be an iconic set. So it would be for me, the first one that comes to mind would be like a 1996 Marvel Masterpiece set. I think if that's fully graded, I think people are gonna. You'd be crazy not to want to bid on that if you had the money,
Right.
Because it's such an iconic set.
Yeah.
I think after that, you would want to jump into like numbered sets, right? Or a 1995 Marvel Masterpiece set. I would say those two just because of their age, right? 94, 95, or excuse me, 95, 96.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, I would jump into numbered sets. I mean, anything modern, whether it's Rittenhouse, whether it's Fleer Ultra, whether it's Marvel Masterpieces, 2016, 2018, 2020, which, also leads me into Rarity. You know, I think we are all drawn by artwork, right? And when it comes to Marvel, we have so many options. Like there's so many sets that you could pick from. So the next step is once you pick your artwork, is it important for you guys to have numbered cards? How do you guys feel about numbered? Would you guys still collect as heavy as you do if there was no numbered cards? How do you feel about that, Brian?
I would collect just as much.
Yeah, I can hear it too.
Yeah, I mean, before I even got into the modern masterpieces, I was still buying the 93s, the 92s, the 94s, and I just connect. I connect more with masterpieces than a lot of the other sets. But yeah, easy. I would still collect. Now I think number cards are insane. I can't even believe that they released those 3 sets hard numbered. Only because let's say you added another 50,000 people into the hobby, which could easily happen, right? And your tier 1 is at 1999. You know what I mean? Like it goes without saying that the value of those, the perceived value of that just on it in itself is going to skyrocket. You know what I mean?
That's what's
But
hard. That's what's hard for people like to understand is that like the influx of people coming in, and then people aren't thinking about that, and they're trading and selling these
yeah,
these hard number cards instead of actually
and
thinking about grading and holding on to some of the cards that aren't hard numbered and making sure you give that card a hard number
right,
by grading it. You know,
yeah,
like people should not be selling necessarily as much, but they should be understanding that if they're trading, they need to be smart about how they're doing that, because if you're getting rid of certain hard numbered stuff or selling it off in order to recoup or get something else, you might be doing yourself harm in a
it's
way.
kind of like
I get worried about it.
it's shooting yourself in the foot, kind of. What it does is, even if we say we double the amount of people in our industry, it's hard enough just to get numbered masterpiece cards or just numbered cards in general, right? Now, imagine having a double the amount. It creates all of these things that are kind of rare, and it makes them rare, you know?
So
And I think, just real quick, the one thing I was
go
going to
ahead,
say,
Elusive, go ahead.
the only thing I was going to add to this was, I also feel like the people that are not thinking about numbered cards right now, or not focusing on them per se, right? Is I feel like the people at the stage of they're just trying to enjoy what they got back into.
Yeah.
And they're also not thinking it in the macro sense. That's all. Which is nothing
Yeah.
wrong with that, by the way.
No.
That just means that they're in the present and enjoying what's in front of them.
Yeah.
Once
Which is
come,
awesome.
Yeah, correct. Once they come into like a realization that they either want to stay in the hobby for a longer period of time, that's why I always bring up the learning curve, right? Because I feel like there's like baby steps. And then also the reason we're thinking about it the way we're thinking about it is because we learned a lot even from the sport market and the Pokemon market.
Yes.
We're seeing what's valuable there. We're seeing the mistakes that those collectors or investors or, flippers, whatever you want to say, what were the mistakes they made, right? Starting with sports. We saw the Luca base set PSA 10 at 20,000 copies. And we did see that was, there was enough people that were able to consume that kind of supply, or absorb. But the other thing was, what did they go to next? They gravitated towards numbered. They realized that rarity.
Rarity.
So which opens up that conversation, right? What do you think about rarity? Like when it comes to numbered cards, how do you think that helps?
Well, I think that's awesome. But there's also another type of rarity too. For example, let's just take Alex Ross, right? Name a set in the U.S. that has Alex Ross artwork.
No, there
is
aren't.
Is it the 2020? Excuse me. Did he do anything for the 2006 Rittenhouse Earth's Mightiest Heroes? I believe
it's very hard to find.
Yeah, very hard to find.
Right? But you go outside of the U.S. and he's doing art for Panini.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So there's a different type of rarity there, and he kicks ass. Like the stuff that he's putting down on paper is incredible. So just from like an artwork perspective, if you're looking for original art, there's that whole other spectrum of rarity. Like Delato, right, doing his stuff for Panini. A lot of those Italian artists, Bianchi, right? He did MM and he did a couple Rittenhouse cards, but he's doing other stuff that's awesome too. But you can't get that stuff in the U.S. We don't know what the production runs are that on that stuff, right? So that lends its hand to another form of rarity, the production run of boxes, which we know Rittenhouse was notoriously low run boxes, like 6,000, 8,000. Yeah. I mean, there's so many different forms of rarity. And when you just get into numbered cards, the way I see it is if you have a purple to 199 and there's 50,000 people in your hobby and their sentiment is so high for characters, they'll never be able to get that. They just won't. They have to pay the premium to get that in the future. So
I think also when it comes to that part, just because you're mentioning the whole rarity thing and how there's different types of rarity, right? And I agree with that. I think rarity, the number helps, just like grading helps. It helps cut a lot of the arguing out, right? Because there's
oh yeah,
one of my issues, and Victor knows this, he's gonna laugh, but a lot of times when people tell me about a certain insert and they tell me that it's my trigger word is SSP. What does that mean?
all right.
What does that mean?
Super short
SSP?
print.
Correct.
Yeah.
But you're not giving me my answer. My answer would be there's 1,000 of them, right? And they're hard numbered.
Right.
So I think that's where the numbering comes in. It lets you know that we don't have to argue. We know for a fact. But then there's even rarity between those numbers, right? So I'll give you a good example. PMGs, if we take 2017, let's see what the true rarity that people are not paying attention to. Here's a good one as well. Bronze are numbered to 199, right? We also have base. We don't know how much base was printed. Should we say 1,000? What would be safe to say just for this example? 500, 1,000, would you say for base?
Let's just go with 1,000, right?
Okay.
We'll keep it on the high end.
Correct. And then you look at, so it's 199 for bronze, it's 99, we'll say for red, 49 for blue, 10 for green, 5 for purple, and then we have the 1 of 1. So if we do that math, which I don't feel like doing, but I'm going to just kind of guess 16, 100, 300, we're at like 1,350, and I'm going to be off, but I'm just trying to that's not the whole point, right?
Right.
But then we'll take something like the royal foil insert.
Right.
The royal foil has one number to 99, one number to 25, and one number to 10. There's no base.
Right.
Right? So now, where are we at? Now we're at 135 versus 1,350.
Right.
So what's more rare, a royal foil insert or a PMG? Now I'll take it a step further. Lucky 8s, right?
Yeah.
We have the jade, number to 88, and the lucky 8, number to 8. That puts us at 96.
Mm-hmm.
There's no base.
No.
So those are the things that I still feel people are still not picking up on,
Right.
in regards to learning curve. They're so focused on the PMG when it comes to, and I get it, when it comes to popularity and like recognition.
That's the like the linchpin right there is the familiarity, right? People from the sport world, they don't know anything about royal foil, right? People from Pokemon don't know anything about royal foil. I know about them, and I went and bought the set. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh shit, yeah, I'm gonna pick that up. But
there's a historical essence to those inserts. Like the PMGs have that history with across like the hobby, in general, the overall hobby. Whereas Marvel card is so niche and so small that unless you did do your research and like you talk about learning curve, it's really, really about like, oh, that's why I know, like, if I do my research on the overall hobby inserts and I start learning, oh, they're speckled in vibranium. That kind of crosses over with sports. Oh, wait, there's platinum portraits in metal.
Right.
That crosses over. When were the first years these came out? 2013 for PMGs, 2021 for portraits, 2015 vibranium. So there's like this whole, when you think of taking care of the Marvel card hobby, you're going to be thinking about down the line 10 years from now, those inserts are going to be the ones that carried over like big time, because it's like, whoa, that was the first time we saw them in our little cubby that became huge, and it won't be a cubby anymore. By then, it'll be like, if you don't have them, they're gone. And that's the thing now that's already happened to us. It's already happening with the PMGs, and it's going to be happening soon with some of these other ones that have platinum that translational. That's why I try to grab them, and I know that they're not going to ever go down in value because the sports card market is already here. And that's why I took the advice from, my guy up here to pick these type of things up.
Right.
Yeah, and look, one of the things I'll add to that as well is, if you think about it, those will always have a market, because like you said, that's the second gateway drug. right? When
Right.
it's not nostalgia, it's the sports market influencing the Marvel market. But here's one thing
But
that people are overlooking. I want to give just one quick example.
yeah.
If you look at Pokemon, when even sports people get into Pokemon, there's no PMG correlation. Yet it still got to the level that it got to. You know why? Because they already had everything structured themselves. They already knew that the collectors valued the first edition set for whatever reason. That was how it was already set up, right? They valued first edition. They valued all of the WotC sets, right? And then they valued the Pikachu Illustrator and trophy cards, right? They already had that in place. Sports people didn't come and tell them, "Oh, this is what we want." So
Yeah, very true.
we still have the chance as collectors to choose what we think are the most important and significant pieces to our collector, like us as collectors. And that's going to be subjective for everyone, right? But that's why I bring up the 1996 Marvel Masterpieces. Like those, there's going to be classics where I guess they're going to be like, they're going to have a cult-like following. Do I think that PMGs, to your point, and all the inserts that cross over from sports, those are always going to have their place because of that specific reason. But I also feel like someone from sports is not going to care about a Jim Lee auto.
Right.
But that's where you're wrong. That's where you're wrong, Elusive. It's happening. The people from sports, I'm joining their lives. And in retro, I got to give you a counter opinion. Retro Hoop Collectibles, I was just in his live, was like, just like so impressed with masterpieces, talking masterpieces up. Imagine when he sees the new stuff. He's in the 90s mind frame of it. Like there's people in the sports card hobby that remember that nostalgia of masterpieces that it brings. The original art got them on their favorite characters, whether it be Gambit, Wolverine, whoever, you name it. And they've been talking about it because he had his first guest on, who was also another sports guy. They love to grade. And guess what they were talking about? They saw that I was in there chatting with them. Oh, Marvelous Packs. Hey, bro, we gonna hang out, you know? And then they're like, dude, I've been going through my Marvel cards and Masterpieces is sick. And then the sports guy with him, I think it was Pittsburgh, was like, yeah, dude, it's sick. Masterpieces were one of my favorite. Like I love. And then they started talking about, I've been picking up at shows, Marvel Universe, 1990 MU. And that's been also what's hyped. And they've been hyping certain sets, and that's been the decided hype set. But they're aware of masterpieces, and they see the original art and the potential. So it's going to trickle up to all the years. But 90 is that first year, and I just can't, as much as I don't like it as a collector, it's the first one, it's up first, then you're going to go up, up, and up. And you're probably going to see the juice go be next, you know?
I think one other thing, too, is that there's so much cool stuff that was released in Marvel. I mean, we have so many dope ass sets. We have so many good insert sets, right? And I think the mistake, and I'll use an example for this, is we in our hobby are allowing the newcomers to choose what blows up instead of us showing them what needs to blow up. And the example is, and God bless these guys, they're really cool guys over at Burbank Cards, right? Mm-hmm. When they were super excited to crack open that 92 MU box, and he was holding it like it was, you know, God's greatest gift to Marvel. And that's just a lack of knowledge, you know. Mm-hmm. That's all it is. Because yes, okay,
and a lot of them are good. Our age.
Yeah, and okay,
they're great people, by the way, great families.
Oh my gosh, they're awesome. And you go there, and it's like going to your house. You know, they're super hospitable. But with something that they're not familiar with, they're cracking boxes and thinking that's like the big hit, but it's not. And they're you know, hey, I have a gang of that stuff. I would love for it to get like straight up out of the atmosphere so that I can offload some of it. But that's not what's going to like grab the new person coming.
How do we solve that? So this is how I propose we solve that, Elusive. This has been my goal. I've been working my butt off to find these content people and find that they've been hyping these sets and try to infiltrate, try to get a chance to be on with them, try to show them different stuff. But that's something that I can't do myself, guys. I need help from the hobby, because if we don't, this is my thing. I'm not trying to hype the hobby to grow. It's going to grow on its own no matter what. It's already going to do that self-sufficient. So my thing is, why not guide them in the right sets? And that's what I tried to do on other people's that were breaking, that came in from Pokemon. I noticed them coming in. I'd go in on lives and I'd be like, hey, that's a cool set, but have you seen this? And then all of a sudden I'm on cam and I'm showing them different cards. But on a big level, we could get some of these big content creators on our podcasts, on our shows, and also us going on their shows first and being like, hey, this is what we feel you guys are missing out on. And these are the sets that are probably got the most like artistic taste to them, scarcity, and they check all those boxes. Because I come from comics, buddy, you come from Pokemon, you come from sports, you guys, we all come from different spots where we got back into Marvel because of that nostalgia and the MCU and whatever other reasons that we personally have. But something got us with these characters, and now we're in it and we love the community. I want to share that with more people in a healthy way. And how do we do it? We got to talk about the sets that are important to us too,
like constructive,
that we agree on,
like constructive education. Not like a dictation, not like whatever that word is. Not like an authoritarian education.
No, we show them our stuff.
Yeah, but like a constructive education where we are showing and we are explaining, and then we're allowing them to make their own choices.
The thing that's tough there, even though I completely agree with both of you, is that we ourselves don't have that structure within even our collective.
I know.
What I'm saying? Like we don't agree on what's worth more than what. Like we could argue till we're blue in the face, but none of us know. Like if you tell me what should be worth more, a double surfer, surfer double impact, or a PMG.
Yeah,
I think it's important to understand, Elusive, that you have people coming into this hobby from different areas. So you're seeing pairings of, like, Spidey comes in from action figures and his passion for that, and he's pairing his cards with that. And now he's gotten really in on cards to the point where he's a great provider. My point, I guess, I just want to finish this last little point. My thing is, like, you have, for me as a comic collector, and then I got back into the hobby after just enjoying it as a kid and nostalgia and all that. I'll be honest, I've only been in this a while. I'm still new. I've only been in about like a year. So for me, it was like looking at comic cuts, seeing certain things caught me back in it. And I have to think, like, if there's a huge community of comic collectors out there, way bigger than us, there's a huge community of Pokemon, way bigger than us. Same thing with sports. Same thing with action figures even. They're bigger than Marvel cards. Mm-hmm. I think, to me, that's where we have to, like, kind of respect what their thoughts of what inserts brought them in the hobby too, because those hold value. In the end, they're the ones too that are going to bring the numbers in and dictate, well, this is the hype. The sports card market did it already with PMGs, with 90MU. Pokemon is starting to do it with all these different holo foils and holo flashes inserts. They're grading them and going nuts on that. I see comic books going for the comic cuts and pieces of comic art that they see from Jim Lee and stuff like that, autos, all that kind of special stuff. So I see that there's inserts that touch on everybody's, like, core, and I try to grab those.
And I agree with that. But again, all I'm saying is, well, a few points here. One of the, just to the whole point of Spidey, I mean, he could have paired his figures with any other card with those characters. Didn't have to be specifically PMGs, just to that point. It could have been, he could have chose any insert to pair those cards with, right? That just happens to be what he's currently into himself. But what I'm saying is, that's still not the point. The point is that I feel, well, at least the point I'm trying to make is that the hobby's so young that we haven't figured all these things out. We have to have, time is going to fix that. In 5 years, maybe the market's going to know what each insert should be worth, what each set should be worth, what is over what. Otherwise, how do you expect investors and bigger money to know what to invest in if they're not if they don't even know? There's a lot of uncertainty. Hey, I want to invest in Marvel. What should I buy? And let's say Victor goes, I think you should buy Platinum Portraits. And then Brian's like, I think you should buy Marvel Masterpieces. And you ask me, and I'm like, I think you should buy any insert possible, right? So, I'm just being honest, right? And then they're going to go, well, which one do I do? They're going to be confused themselves. So until
because it's so Wild West.
Correct. And so we're just too young. You know what I mean? We're
I
not
agree
in
with that.
2021. We're in like 1750 right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. And part of the Wild West won't get situated until there's an actual, and I don't want to use this, but it's the closest I can think of, until there's an actual person who's looked up to, kind of like a Jeff, right? Like an SCI guy who influences the market, right? Which is what they do. Here's the hot cards, and then they show the market tracking and the stats, and they explain why. Until we have a system that has something like that, because that's just human nature. We all can't be the authority. We have to have somebody or people that we can look to for that type of advice or education, right? And as long as the majority believes in that and wants to follow that, then that will structure out from the Wild West. It'll kind of create that like subtle flattening instead of this crap, where it's like, I'm looking at auctions, it's like things are ending at like 200,000, 20,000, and then you'll see one that's like $5. I'm like, what?
And another thing to your point is, that's why we see how difficult it is to make trades in the Wild West right now, right? Yeah. Unless you're talking about EPAC, where it's clear cut. It's as logical as it can be. It's a new set. You guys each know what you guys are getting as far as worth, because it's the same set. You guys know what achievements you guys are chasing, or whatever the case may be. But when you're trying to trade a PMG and you're asking for an auto, or vice versa, or the guy wants 3 numbered cards for his 1 auto, or whatever, we don't know yet. So that's why you see a lot of people can't even trade effectively.
Because they're valuing autos at like some crazy amount, and you're valuing things at another crazy amount.
Look how seamless it is in sports. Like, someone could go up to a table and they're like, here's a PSA 10 Michael Jordan rookie. And they're like, I want this, and this, and this for it. And then they come into an agreement, because they can look up comps. The market has been established on exactly around what that card is trading at.
Right.
And that's how easy it is. We don't have nothing close to that.
Nothing. And as long as so if people aren't grading, right now, a lot of people are grading and selling. I mean, there's a ton, but a lot of people aren't doing it. And that's messing with stuff. It's messing with a lot of the values, and like in the sports world, you still have that, but because they've had such a long history of grading, values are way more consistent, and they all flow with each other, kind of, and we don't have that. We don't have like a long history of like graded cards. What do we have, like 1 year and a half of like solid graded cards, of like a big influx, right?
I mean, people, we were being laughed at probably like half a year ago for like, why would you grade that, or why are you grading, or why are you using that company?
Yeah, I wish I would have saved those messages. Those were fun.
Like, it's one of those things where it's like, to me, people are missing out on the true aspect of the hobby, because to me, that's the completion. When you have it graded, you finally have that card that you've been wanting at its full level. Whether it's you graded it yourself, or you traded for it or bought it. You have
authenticated, hard numbered in a slab. That's awesome.
as good as it gets, right?
Yeah.
And then you sell it, and with the intention to maybe repeat the process or
Yeah.
do that with other cards, or do it, to chase a certain box or insert that you're after. It's beautiful.
Which goes
That's
right
the
into
hobby
Billy's
game for
point, which goes right into the point Billy made, right? Which is funding the hobby. Like it's such a crucial point in any hobby to fund your own hobby, right? When you're selling, you're contributing to the hobby. You're growing it.
Yeah.
I'm not
getting
saying
it-
go
you're
sell
getting your
everything.
stuff out there.
The only thing I would just to sum up what we were talking about the market. I guess the only point I want to make is that only two absolutes that we have currently, because none of that market is set up yet, right? Like to facilitate all this trading, is age and rarity, because art is going to be subjective, right?
Yeah.
Even though, I mean, you can still make your best choice or make your best guesses. That's what I'm doing when I pick up certain cards. I just hope that my eye is good enough that it's what other people are going to want in the future. So the only thing you can control is how old is what you're collecting and how rare is what you're collecting.
Right.
Everything else is going to be.
It's not the stats Spider-Man put up in a year. It's the art. Do you love that art of Spider-Man?
Yeah.
Like, does that catch your eye?
Did that artist do a good job?
Mm-hmm.
Does the artist actually do art, or is it just like a one-off? Like the Alex Ross thing. Like, he's not out there putting out a bunch of product. So when you see something with his art on it, there's not a lot. There's not a lot of this.
So do you think that's more indicative of like effort, or is that more indicative of like him just trying to be more exclusive?
I would kind of lean more towards the latter. Right? Like, I'm sure he's up there in age. He doesn't want to spend a year and a half doing
like
stuff.
you guys could have a hard numbered card all you want, but it could just be a hard numbered piece of shit. Like, I could hard number you.
We've seen those.
I could hard number. Yeah, I mean, if you want me to smack a guarantee on it, I got that kind of time.
We've seen those. But what's funny is that even if it's a hard numbered piece of shit, it's still going to destroy supply and demand once the influx of people come in. Right? You add another 10,000 people, and that hard numbered piece of crap just became a in demand hard numbered piece of crap. Because somebody wants it for a set.
Yeah, so it's almost like you're telling me you've never seen a ugly LeBron card that's numbered.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, the only thing I've only seen green LeBron cards.
Yeah.
I've only seen green Kobe cards.
You were hitting on something. You were hitting on the set collector aspect. Like right now on EPAC, people will pay premium on certain characters just to get an achievement. This is your chance to shine with certain things that would be worth usually not much, you know? Yeah. And that proves your point, right, Brian? It proves your whole, for the set collector.
Supply demand.
And you limit the supply demand on set collectors or achievement builders or people that are looking for specific like types of completion on whatever they want to rainbow.
And that leads into why I'm so gung-ho about numbered cards. Number cards will 100% of the time beat supply demand. Like, they just will always they'll always be on the winning side of supply and demand.
Like, I'm a comic guy. What ifs? Hard number.
Yeah.
You have the comic art and then you have original art. It's like it checks those both off. You have the rarity. You have certain things there that are just like, it's cool. It's for me, it's like, dang, like what person wouldn't want that?
Okay, imagine Pokemon having hard numbered cards.
Exactly. Yeah. So to that equation, if you want to build a perfect equation, because we're talking about checking boxes, then you're missing the age, right? Because that would be considered modern. So that's what I'm trying to tell you. If you want to check boxes, you have to go like, okay, rarity numbered. So what's the earliest numbered sets? If you really want to think about it that way as well, right? That's another way. But
Yeah, and
I mean,
that's the thing also, that people weren't nostalgic on Marvel cards in the modern or even post Marvel having the contract in the 90s with Flair,
correct,
Lear Ultra, all
correct.
that stuff, you know, and once that bankruptcy happened, we went into this new era of Marvel, and it came down to Rittenhouse. That became something where that's a learning curve all the way,
But you
because it
also got to
doesn't.
remember, Victor, just on your point, on the older sets that were numbered, the grading does the numbering for us,
Yeah.
right? So that's why you see people going after hard after PSA 10s, because even as
People
the pop grows,
forget
how
that.
many 10s are there going to be for
Right.
that
Yeah.
one?
Yeah,
So
you're
right,
right.
how many Surfer 10s do you think they're going to be, double impact Surfer 10s, even in 10 years? If we want to take a guess, we
Exactly,
could bet
because
on
they're
that.
conditioned, the
Sensitive.
condition, the sensitive,
Mhm.
all these other things with these older things, and it always goes back
Right.
to vintage. Why do you think the sports guys are going to the first set? You know, in terms of mass produced or all that, they don't realize that's not even the first. You know, we have stuff from the 60s and 80s and
Mhm.
all sorts of stuff that would look killer in all sorts of
Right.
slabs.
I mean,
You
that's
know,
what our
and
friend Stacking Gems is up to, if you haven't noticed.
Yeah.
Right?
well, yeah, he needs to get on the grading vintage with SGC. Come on, Stacking
I
Gems.
see
I
that.
know
I
you're.
saw that coming. I saw that coming.
Yeah, man. I know. I'm still gonna push you on that, bro, because guess what? That falls in line with what sports people do. So they're already doing it, man. I know my buddy
Yeah.
Kiss My Raz sent like 800 cards to SGC. So people aren't playing, whether it's in the general hobby or our little bubble
You
that is
Yeah.
know,
getting bigger and bigger, and it's gonna be like gum. When you're blowing that bubble, you don't want it to burst in your face. And if you let it burst in your face, you're too late.
another thing I would say, just to the whole grading thing, because we do bring it up within the community a lot, but just being honest, people have their own opinions on each grading company, and
Mm.
SGC might be new to some people, but SGC has been around for a long time.
Over
So I
20
don't,
years.
however long it's been a long time. My point being
Over
is,
over 20 years.
yeah. So that's what I'm saying. I don't understand why there's much really argument. That someone that's already established. The argument is just over either looks, aesthetics, right, or brand recognition. That's all that's the only
That's
difference.
what it is. It's just brand,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, if you guys remember Cartman, he didn't want a Toshiba. He wanted
Right.
an iPad.
Well, it's kind of like if you're a runner, you're not going to buy Nikes. You're going to buy Asics. But guess what? More people buy Nikes because they think they're better running shoes, and they're not. It's just a better brand.
Yeah.
Asics are the
Perceived.
superior running shoes.
Perceived value.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
perceived value.
it's the same thing. And look, I know I talk a lot of crap on PSA, right? I'm not trying to get PSA values to go away. I want them to stay up.
Yeah, you just want to
My
close the gap.
thing is that the gaps need to close because it's silly to not have them close. It's just silly. It makes no sense.
And they've already been closing more and more. And to be
Oh,
honest,
easy.
like, it's not fair to really like say like they have a big market share in Marvel and in
Well,
sports.
one thing I
It's
would
been
say,
growing, the market share. So I think, to me, like, I just think it's one of those things where we're gonna start getting over that fact soon, and the hobby will correct itself the appropriate way. And I think it's already happening. You're seeing like there's
Yeah,
already
little
a
by little.
backlog with all the top three companies. And even though SGC's backlog isn't like PSA and BGS, you're starting to see things changing with the top three, where it's going to be harder and more expensive to grade. Even with PSA is never going to go back to 20 a card, and neither is BGS. And people need to realize that if SGC is already at 30, and
Yeah.
they could even go up. PSA tops would get down to 50, BGS same. So people are going to do it based on their tastes, just like they do with Marvel art, and
I also
you're
think
seeing the correction.
I also think that with the grading, what people don't realize, shout out to Crypto Collectibles. He asked me this question yesterday, which was, what does SGC have to do to catch up to PSA? Right? That's a good question. And it's the same thing that, in a way, Brian, everybody asks is, how do you close the gap? It's the same kind of question. which is this. This is how I see it. I personally think it's consistency. I think that the people that put pride in the work that they do and that shows, people are going to notice, right? I think that what happened before is that people were just buying the brand. Now we're starting to see a lot of things come to light, right, from every grading company.
Right.
But if you keep doing your best and you keep caring about your clients and you keep claiming about, you know, the return times for your submissions and all that, and you are consistent, the key word for me is consistency. Consistency with grading, consistency with service, consistency with quality. That's what's going to close the gap.
Huge.
Right? If PSA keeps getting into controversial situations, right, that's going to keep tarnishing their brand, right? And if SGC keeps doing what they're doing, right, it's like the rabbit and the turtle. You know, the turtle's going to catch up to the rabbit. But, you know, so I definitely see where you guys are going with there, and I agree with SGC from that perspective. Again, for me, the sleeper always has been BGS. You know, BGS has been consistent. And so again, at that point, it just comes to preference, right?
That's it.
But the more the merrier. I do feel like the more the merrier, and that's what's happening. You know, PSA was just used to being king for a long time, right?
Right.
Which brings me, let's full circle and go to Fanatics, right? Someone that wants to control everything, that is not okay with having competition. What do we feel there?
Well, let me start off by just saying there's 800% growth in our hobby. So everything we've been talking about is happening. Like, it's been proven in data. So that means, yes, you're seeing prices shift because of scarcity. And then you're also seeing it even shift with grading and people realizing all that. So when it leads to Fanatics, this is where I have to say Upper Deck is starting to respond by limiting physical product in their new releases and putting more and more effort into less of the costs of manufacturing the product, putting the packs together, boxing it. All this background stuff is the same that Fanatics wants to control. They want to control the whole thing and be direct to the person. What is EPAC anyway? It's blowing up with more and more people coming into Marvel. They're realizing they're a cash cow, not just with hockey anymore and other things. It's more becoming non-sports. And you not only have you seen that, they're protecting it in a way that is incredible. You're seeing pack odds changed. You're seeing pull rates change from physical to electronic, and to me, digital. And to me, it's just this new wave that is inevitable that we're not going to be able to, like, you know, stop, because basically you're going to start seeing the trend up where it's like the proportion of physical lowering, proportion of digital EPAC / physical increasing.
And
so
to your point,
that's where I'm at.
I think actions speak louder than words, and I think you're right only because of this, right? You made a great point about how much effort they've been putting into EPAC, and I'm going to give them a lot of credit with the EPAC achievements, right? That's brilliant, right? Because you're dangling carrots in front of collectors, which are going to now keep going after these carrots that you're dangling in front of them. And then you add the aspect that it's like casino-like, right? Even when you're hitting the deck, doesn't it sound like a dealer playing poker? Right?
Yeah.
Think about that. So all that is psychological.
That's definitely psychological,
right? And then look at the actual physical product. We're having quality control issues. We're getting recycled art. So the effort shows in what road they want to bet on, right? So they're betting on the digital. Here's the only issue I personally have with the digital and how I feel about it. Doesn't mean it's right. Again, these are just my feelings. It's the same thing as like, do you remember when the first time everybody was collecting Blu-rays and DVDs, right? And then went into the digital copy, or you buying it from Apple. For some reason, I don't feel as safe as if I'm holding the item myself. That's just me personally, right? If I have a collection of DVDs, it's tangible. I could go pick one up. I could see it. I could use it. I could do whatever I want with it. Knowing that it's just in the cloud, and what happens if I forget? I don't know, just something dumb. You get me? It's just maybe something that disconnects for me, but I always prefer having the physical than the digital. Do I think
the physical is awesome? Super important.
Yeah. Do I think the digital is awesome? I totally do. As long as you're giving me my option and continue to give me the option to get it mailed to me.
Such a good point. Such a good point. Yeah, but I go, my head spins on this, man. It drives me wild because it's a clear, obvious thing what they're doing. You have them do the physical. They have these diamond dealers. The diamond people get a hold of this physical. They request a lot. They're allocated what Upper Deck decides to allocate. For some people, they treat them good, like Dave and Adams. Other people, not so good. And then you see how they price it. They price it ridiculous, unfair. We're talking like $300 to $400 a box. They have this window that's shortening every release because their EPAC is starting to be like, okay, as soon as we open up our EPAC, we're gonna take up all of that share of you guys because you're gonna jump in. It's cheaper. You get, you don't have to deal with all this. What I don't like about it is it's not the same tactile feeling, all these other essences of ripping packs. And I also don't like one other thing that bothers me is how many hands are touching my cards before I get them shipped to me. And then
I never thought of that.
I'm a grader, bro. I hate that thinking about that. They're in
I'm
this
a grader,
warehouse.
bro.
They've been top loaded. They've been sleeved. They've been handled by all these different hands to get to my order. And
who knows
man,
who's doing
like,
it?
it's manipulated.
They're like
You
nicking
don't know.
corners. Yeah. That's like really
I don't trust
good.
them. I want to sleeve my own stuff. I want
That's a very valid point. I've never thought of that.
Bothers me because I'm getting these things and now I can't complain. Now I can't do redemptions. Now I can't do, like, if I open a box and I have a card that's dented, that's a manufacturing issue. But now with EPAC, they cut that out. They cut out all the manufacturer. You don't have that piece on a whole percentage of the product. 60% now. That's crazy. That scares me.
And to your point, why do you think it's always been that sealed product always holds value?
Yeah.
Why do
sealed
I always,
collectors?
What do I tell you all the time? You have to collect sealed because that's not always going to be around. There's going to be, look, you said it yourself. You brought up a good point back to Victor, and you were doing lives at the time with Awesome and in Crypto and Lucy, and you guys were discussing what was it called again? That WhatsApp or
Whatnot?
Whatnot. Thank you. And you guys were talking about how many people were breaking boxes on Whatnot. What is that doing to the supply of sealed products? Right?
Crazy.
So the more people, and it's the same thing happening with Pokemon. Why do you think the first edition box keeps going up consistently? Because, or even the unlimited version, because people keep
all getting
those
red
boxes open. Exactly. So if you could hold sealed, right? If you could fight that OCD and fight the demons,
it's hard.
Then you're gravy, But yeah,
it's difficult, man. 2 out of 3 of us can't do that right now. Like, we just can't. We'll look at it and it'll torture us. I mean, I have to know what's in there. I have to free those cards, and like that's one of the problems we have. We love to
let it fly.
I'm with you. Hey, that's why in Hot Wheels it's that's also discussing another market that's bigger than Marvel. Hot Wheels, it's been around for a long time.
Yeah.
There's a very popular term in that hobby, which is, are you a loose collector or are you a card collector or a sealed collector, right? So to your point on how hard it is, that's why you double up. You open one and you keep one sealed, so you get to enjoy it, and you're also playing the long game.
Correct.
My big thing about Fanatics, I have a lot of thoughts on why I don't like what they're doing, but the number one thing is they haven't announced what it's going to be called. So they're creating an entirely new brand. And if they don't come up with a name that actually captures the excitement, right, then they're going to fail.
Yeah, that's a great point, because it's what the UFC Bellator, right? The reason Bellator never kicked off, even though it had a lot of funding, number one, you don't have Dana White as a promoter, but also number two, that name never stuck. Just the name just
it doesn't flow out of your mouth, right?
Correct.
Right.
Yes, to your
point, so like Topps, that's a nice name, right? It's a catchy name. Nike, catchy name. Puma, right? Upper Deck, kick-ass names. Fleer, right? These are great names. If Fanatics came out with the cards that are called Fanatics, they will fail right out of the gate. So I think that's going to be that once we hear the name, that's pretty much going to tell me whether they live or die, you know? So I'm not even really going to worry about it until I hear the name, right? If I hear the name and it's super catchy, then I'll be like, ah, crap. Okay, let me start thinking like, what else? Now they got a good name, you know?
It's a valid point. It's a valid
And then,
point because what
and then
you're
I'll
saying
worry
is
about
that,
it.
yeah, you're saying basically that you think that if they don't have that, well, what did they do? They got the licenses. So they didn't get the company, now that company in 5 years,
Right.
they won't be able to make the cards for those sports.
They're
But
building their own distribution company,
right,
their own card printing company, all
right.
from the ground up with a new
So they're
name.
going to be a one-stop shop, and
Yes.
they have time to come up with a good name because the clock is ticking, but they've got some years to, I guess, figure out how they're going to brand and do this.
Well,
But
check it out.
Fanatics ain't the way. It should not be named Fanatics. That doesn't sound cool.
You know what a super like reliable car is? Like Hyundai,
Toyota.
right?
Mhm.
Hyundai, right? Hyundai's
So
a reliable car. But guess what? It's not the most popular car because the name is stupid, right? It's just got a dumb name, right? Or like it has to have something that people can latch onto and feel confident buying, right? And I don't think they're going to pull it off. Honestly, I don't think they will. I think they're going to
well,
come
I
out with a name. It's going to be something like, you know, God, I can't even think of a name, but it's going to be something. And heavens forbids if it's a 2-word name, their chances go down even lower because
I hope
I
they
think
grab great design people that know what they're talking about and what they're doing, or that have loved designing cards. And there's great guys in our hobby that love it, that
Well,
love
one,
that stuff.
one thing I just want to throw in regards to self-finance that I don't know if anybody's thought about this, but right now, if you see cards, because it is already a market, let's be honest, and we're going to just talk specifically about sports because first of all, those are the first people that are going to be affected by this whole thing, right?
yeah, yep,
So let's see Tops and Upper Deck, and again, only when it relates to sports and Panini, those are types of currency, right? They're like Bitcoin that are already trading.
right,
People already accepted these values. And people forget that all Fanatics is doing is, hey, we're bringing in a new currency.
right,
Well, that doesn't mean you have to accept the currency,
true,
right? You don't have to buy none of the new product. You don't think the market in the sports side, you don't think they have enough product that's been made from 2021 to all the
oh
way back
yeah,
to, right? There's always going to be cards to trade. So you guys, in other words, what I'm saying is you could have a probation period if people choose to for Fanatics where you don't touch their product if you don't feel like it until you feel that they've come
right.
up with something worthy of you buying and accepting their currency, then buy. But if you
And if
don't like it,
they
no one. But my only point is everybody's acting, or not everybody, but I see some people acting like as if like they're not going to have a choice to, right? Like you always have your choice of where you put your money into.
always a
That's all.
choice, right? And what's going to happen is if they fail, well, then guess what? Now everything prior to that just got more rare because it
Correct.
won't be made again, and then
Like the
that's going to
Watsy with
moon,
Pokemon.
and yeah, and then that's going to go sky high, and so yeah, dude, I'm rooting for. Like, I don't want to be the evil guy, but I mean, I can see the benefits of it failing.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
it's it's harder for me to see the benefits of it succeeding because I don't like monopolies,
Yep.
and I don't think that's very I don't think that's a fair thing to do,
Yeah.
I think
Dude,
it's sad. It's sad that that's the reality in our hobby, that we have such few choices to
dude,
grab, grab new stuff from
right?
Marvel. You know what I mean?
I,
Like, if you wanted to get old stuff, you have plenty of choices because of where the growth has gone over the years, long term, and that's
Mm,
why I think there's going to be a lot of big changes for our Marvel cards down the line. Stuff we can't control because right now we're small, and Upper Deck is pretty big, and they could get eaten up by something even bigger, like Disney or Fanatics. So in my
I'm
head, I don't believe Upper Deck's going to always have Marvel cards. It's just a
correct.
matter of time before
I'm really
it's another
hoping that
company.
Disney makes a move.
Or Tops.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think Topps would be the awesome move,
Mhm.
but I think
From a
It
card
would be
design, can you
genius by
imagine
then.
Topps Chrome
Genius
stuff
by then.
for Marvel?
yeah,
Yeah,
I mean
I'll
that
buy
would
that.
be
I'll buy.
by
Speaking
it'd
of
be
currency,
over.
I'll buy that all day.
Yeah, it'd be over. That would be the only product I buy.
Yeah.
But if Disney bought Topps and Upper Deck, and just kept those companies going, just now we own you,
Mhm.
then it just keeps our little cut of the hobby safe from the dumbassery that Fanatics is doing.
Guys,
You know,
let's end it on a good note. I really enjoyed our discussion today, and I think it was awesome. So thank you again,
yeah,
Brian, for joining. I appreciate it, man. And thank you, Victor. As always, man, happy birthday.
yeah.
And
Happy
thank you
birthday,
for
dude.
hopping on with us, man. I
Thanks,
appreciate it.
guys.
All
Yeah,
right,
thanks,
man.
Thanks so
guys.
much.
I'll have you
Talk
guys
to you
on.
later.
Take it easy.